Good morning and welcome to the panel, Will 2008 be the year when eBooks make it? And I'm Darlene Marshall, I'm the moderator. I'm going to allow each of the panelists to say a little bit about him or herself and why you think you're on this particular panel. And we will save time for questions and participation from the audience, of course, because we do want you all to jump in when you have a question or something that you want to say. I have been published in ebook form since 2001. I have 3 books currently available as both ebook and print editions, but initially I was only published in ebook, and my first books came out in a format which is no longer viable for most computers, on little floppy disks. And I've had 2 publishers fold beneath me, which is not an uncommon occurrence in the ebook world, and we'll talk about that as well. But it's been an interesting experience, and it's one that a lot of people ask me about how it's worked or how it hasn't worked. So if you have questions, I would like to discuss that. And if you're unfamiliar with my work, it's not just because they're ebooks, but because I write historical romance, not science fiction or fantasy. So if you're not reading in that genre, you may not have heard of me. And if you are reading in that genre, I certainly hope you've heard of me. Ellen?
I'm Ellen Asher. Up until June, I was the editor-in-chief of the Science Fiction Book Club. I am now deliriously happily retired. And we never did ebooks at the club, but we did get requests for them, so we thought about it from time to time. Basically, I'm on this panel because Mark asked me if I would be. And I figure I can come up with an opinion about anything.
Charles?
I'm Charlie Stross. I've got 2 relations with ebooks, one as a reader and one as a writer. I've been reading ebooks on palm tops since about 1996 because, well, going back to 1990, I had a very bad detached retina that needed actual eye surgery. And to sort of retrain my left eye to work properly, I started reading on the smallest type I could on screen. So making the jump to early palm tops and reading ebooks on them wasn't that difficult. And so I've been sort of following the ebook scene for more than a decade. Simultaneously, as a writer and dealing with some of the larger publishing companies, Ace, Orbit, and Tor, for example, I've been sort of nudging them along and finding out what they're doing with commercial ebooks from the mainstream publishers. And there have been some pretty interesting developments I've been hearing about in the past year, which I can fill you in on.
Okay, and I'm Horace. I'm Don DeMassa. I was reviewer for Science Fiction Chronicle for the last 30 years of its existence, and I write novels, and I think I'm on this panel because I don't read ebooks.
Well, but that gives you an opinion about
Right.
them that is probably as valid as anyone else's. When I first got published in 2001, that was the most common reaction that I got from people was, well, but when is it going to be a real book? And I would try to explain to people who are not ebook readers that it is a real book. It's a book just like any other book, except that the medium is different. And at that time, it was certainly a technology that a lot of people were unfamiliar with and a lot of people were very opposed to, in the sense that they didn't consider that something they wanted to spend their time reading. As one person said, I look at a computer screen all day. When I read, I want to relax. There has been a lot of growth in the industry since then, but it's my opinion, I'd like to hear from the rest of the panel, that we still haven't reached, to use the cliche, the tipping point, where ebooks have moved into the mainstream to the extent that somebody would automatically think of ebooks when they're thinking of books and make that their first purchase. But this could be the year when that could happen for a lot of different reasons.
I think we're pretty far from that, actually. It has frequently been said that ebooks will not become commonly used until they solve the problem of the 3 Bs, which are bed, bath, and beach. And I would like to add a 4th B to that, which is Butterfingers. What happens when you drop your Kindle? People who are reading for pleasure want to be able to read anywhere at any time without having to take a huge amount of care of the technology. I mean, if you're reading a beautiful leather-bound limited edition, of course you read it carefully. But most people, for most of their leisure reading, are reading inexpensive paperbacks or somewhat more expensive, but still relatively durable hardcovers, things that you don't have to, worry about getting sand in, or what happens if water splashes on them, or if you spill some coffee. You don't want to do it, but you're still careful. There's a level of, and again, you don't have to worry about dropping it, and I fall asleep and drop books a lot.
Okay. Charles, is that a Kindle?
No, this is the Sony PRS 505 e-reader.
This is the Kindle.
Okay.
That's the Kindle.
So what happens if you drop it?
Nothing. It's not as durable as a real book, but... Okay, can I take things from the top, because I've got a number of points I'd like to raise. Firstly, you started by talking about reading for pleasure. I'm going to maintain, first of all of us here do an awful lot of reading on screen of electronic texts already. We call it the World Wide Web. What we don't do is a lot of reading of books as linear texts. Secondly, there is a strong market for ebooks already, although they're mostly sold via non-fiction publishers to vertical markets. I know one magistrate in the UK who pointed out to me that if somebody could produce the whole of the appropriate legal guidelines for the British court system as ebooks, the Ministry of Justice would be quite happy to drop £5,000 a year to equip every judge and magistrate in the country with an ebook reader with this kit on it.
I'm turning off my phone.
Something similar can easily be said of medics. Medics have been using medical textbooks on palms for years with great gusto, because who wants to carry textbooks that big around a ward in their pocket? So, in terms of non-fiction, the ebook niche is already being occupied. What we don't see is separate standalone readers, because in many of these professions, either they're carrying a PDA around, or they're carrying around an actual tablet PC that they can do other things on and then fold flat and use as an A4 textbook. Now, the question of ebooks in fiction is an entirely different matter, and I think that's what we're all interested in today.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you when it comes to reference books and things like that. That, I think, is the natural home.
Yeah.
Certainly the first home.
Now, ebooks in fiction have been a bit disappointing in sales. What I hear from authors with Bain and the Webscription Scheme, which is far and away the market leader in terms of pioneering new sales techniques and actually getting readers involved, is they're seeing maybe 2,000 to 5,000 readers for the ebook editions, which is disappointing, but is getting into the league where they're seeing nearly as many readers as they are hardback readers, and it is contributing to their income stream. So it's not going to revolutionise the world until we get well beyond the current ebook readership and have more people reading. Now, as for reading devices, I think that this machine, it's technically very elegant, but